your plan of how you wanted to do the two quarterbacks when you went back and looked at and self-scouted and stuff, and how you decided who went in when and mid-drive, new drive? Like, how do you think it all worked out?
Yeah, I thought it, at first, not exactly sure how it was going to go. I think a lot of it was just a feel thing, certainly. Maybe early in that game, feeling we had to use some of that tempo where Mad Dog got in there and did a really nice job with that. And then, there's no denying just Taylen's running ability and what he can do there. So we felt as the game went on, got more and more comfortable, and was pleased how it turned out.
Last week, it could be mid-drive, play to play, and I think a lot of us kind of thought, yeah, right. And then we saw third play of the game, you go right to Maddux. Then we saw the one drive where Maddux was driving down the field, and you go back to Taylen. Even the third down at the end of the game there, where Maddux fumbled and he came back in. Like, how do you weigh, I guess, wanting a guy that's in a rhythm to keep going versus if the play you want to run is better for the other guy, mid-drive?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, there is that balance. I think even talking to those quarterbacks, just telling them, hey, we're not really in a situation where that term rhythm is going to feel perfect, and so I think so much of it in that game was based off of, hey, what do we think each guy excels at, putting them in the right position, and I thought they did a tremendous job of staying ready.
And you said that you guys have studied two quarterback systems. I'm curious, is it something that you've run in the past, or did you study a certain system to learn, the ins and outs of it?
Yeah, no, never really done it in the past. I think it was just probably 2 or 3 conversations during the week with certain schools that have been in that situation. But again, it's like we said earlier, before this game. I mean, it's a new experience. We're getting a good feel for it, but we think both those quarterbacks were needed to win that game.
Andy said that you studied this specifically tailored to the two quarterbacks you have now. I don't know if you want to talk about the 2 or 3 schools you talked to, but who has similar athletes to you guys in running a 2 quarterback system that you have now?
Yeah, I know. I would say this. Certainly, it's been done at Boise before. That's probably a starting point.
You're talking about Brett and Montel?
Correct. And so I think that's maybe a starting point, Mike. I think the other part, certainly, Sacramento State now, who's at Stanford, have a lot of connections there, watching what they did really last year with their 2 different players. I think, again, the unique thing about these 2 players is we're going to throw it with Taylen and we're going to run it with Maddux, and I think that's the unique part of it. You look at that game and you think about some of the runs Maddux had in that game, and you look at some of the throws Taylen made. That's what we think can be a strength of this. But outside of that, a little bit of a feel, a little bit of, hey, what does this guy do well to put us in the best position to win the game?
What did you learn Saturday? What did you come away thinking that you didn't know, that you learned this based on just the experience itself?
Yeah, I probably want to just have one quarterback, I just think for that added layer, it's for a long time here, we've been so heavy on personnel groups, as you guys know, dating way back, and sometimes going into a game with 40, 50 different personnel groups to give guys a role, play guys their strength. It's probably the first time I've been a part of, even adding to that number based off your quarterback moving in and out. But again, it's a testament to both those guys, the ability for them to stay locked in while they're not taking every rep and still be extremely productive.
You mentioned Taylen's running ability. How do you as a coach emphasize what a guy does well and try to teach him how to be a quarterback at the same time? Because it seems like the danger there is he overthinks and then he's a second slow, and that just causes a lot of havoc. How do you approach that?
Yeah, great question. Again, this is, as you guys know, as competitive as each of these games have been, there is no training ground, if you will. So I think certainly we feel we've tailored it to what each guy does well. But I think it's even more than just, hey, running and throwing. It's from a passing standpoint, what throws do they feel comfortable with? What throws have they had a higher percentage of completing? There's a lot that goes into later in the week, even having both those quarterbacks upstairs with me, going through the plan. What do you feel more comfortable with? And again, trying to do everything we can to make them have plays, go execute plays that they have confidence in.
Your first 4 touchdown drives, 2 of them were all Taylen, 2 of them were all Maddux. How nice was it on that 5th touchdown drive to have a drive that, both of them came in and you guys got a score? How kind of reassuring was that to the mid-drive changes?
Yeah, I thought it was awesome. I mean, I'm just going to keep kind of going back to this because I think, maybe I was in a situation that Taylen was in last week in my playing career here. I just cannot say enough about what he kind of went through that week, there was a span, I think it was over an hour long, where he didn't touch the football in that game, right? Looking at the the second quarter coming into halftime, for him to come in there and play the way he played to support the other guy, just speaks volumes to him. And I mean that. I'm as proud of any guy I've worked with as that guy, to be in the pressure environment he's in, to be in a situation where certainly with the media and all that, to have handled himself as professionally as he did and went out and executed like that. Again, we needed both those guys to win that game.
Go back to him at that point, because a lot of us just thought, okay, well, Maddux is just going to finish out the game now, and this is what they need to do to win. I mean, Taylen obviously took advantage of the opportunity that he got there when he came back in, but in the third quarter there, whenever it was, early fourth, what made you go back to him?
Yeah, I think there was just a feeling the way our defense was playing that we needed to be patient, a little bit more patient in that third quarter. We didn't need to be an up-tempo, operation. And again, I think in certain personnel groups, when Taylen is in there, his running ability is a difference maker for us. And so, again, a lot of it was just feel. A lot of it was those guys complementing one another, and we're fortunate it worked out.
Your quarterback room, and years ago, a guy like Grant had Rick Waits 4 years, and he finally took over an offense, but he learned from Kellen Moore for most of his career. And you look like your current quarterback room. You don't have an upperclassman in there. I don't know, what is that like in terms of these kids? I mean, they really kind of learn on their own as they're young, but what is the value of having maybe an upperclassman with experience in that QB room and not having one, I guess?
Yeah, I think every year's so unique. I think an unsung hero for us, if you will, is a guy, Colt Fulton, who's been here for a long time, played for a lot of different coaches. He's a guy that I honestly, even during the week, during game days, rely on with our operation, with what he's seeing, down on the field. And so I think there's probably a lot of guys like that in this program, that maybe people don't hear a ton about. But he is a veteran guy that I know both those quarterbacks rely on a lot. But I'll say this, I think it's a great mixture, and the relationship that those guys have is one that's competitive, but that's one that's supportive. And I think you got to see that on just authentic, genuine joy in that game for one another, and being bought into whatever it took to win it.
At halftime, this thing could have gone either way. How much time did you specifically spend with Taylen, and what did you say to him?
I told both those guys, hey, you got to be ready, and I just, again, it's probably one of those things where there's maybe a little bit of feeling like, yeah, whatever, but certainly I think going into that first drive, that was how I addressed it. I said, this is not going to be a by series type thing. You're going to be in, you're going to be out, and we need you guys to stay locked in. And again, I understand the lack of rhythm that might feel at that position, but where we're at right now, that's the most critical thing for us.
Given what Taylen put on film last season, I'm guessing that you guys spent a lot of time this summer preparing him for what defenses were going to try and take away. But how do you prepare a quarterback to change the way he plays? I mean, he's played the same way his whole life. So how do you prepare him to say, hey, you're not going to be able to run outside the tackles as much? How do you prepare a guy for that?
Yeah, I don't think you really can prepare for that, right? You're ultimately hoping that development comes in the things that defenses do to take your strengths away, and again, you see that when he's out there. I mean, again, I go back to what do I think some of the most important plays of that game were, and I'll give you two. One, there was we were in 13 personnel, a big-time shot by Taylen, I believe in the third or fourth quarter, the deep post to Eric. I believe every indication there was that was going to be a run play, and his ability to throw that ball down the field. The second play he made, which was tremendous, was a high red zone. We looked to take a shot. It wasn't there. He found Tyler Crow for a really good gain. So I think it's there's maybe this thought of like, hey, we're not running them. We're not. Look, like the word is out there, the things that we're seeing, certainly they're trying to do everything they can to keep him in the pocket, force him to play there, and his continual development in the full quarterback spectrum, if you will be critical.
When it comes to Ashton Genty, he fumbles twice against North Dakota, put on the bench, comes back in, scores a touchdown. Fumbles twice this last game. I don't know how many plays he missed in the second half, but he ends up with over 160 yards rushing. What did you think of his response? And at this point, do you guys have the best running back in the country at Boise State?
if he's not the best, he's right up there as one of the top three, and that's no disrespect to him. That's just how our locked-in focus is. That I don't know how many other guys we're watching out there week to week, but I just think, look, there's a lot of trust, with Ash and his process and how much he cares about his game. He's kind of a cool down guy, if you will, if things aren't going good. I think I got on the phone with Jimmy and I said, hey, we're on the same page. Let's give him the last 7 minutes off, but he got to be ready to roll here in the third quarter. So, he knows what it is, the passion he plays with, and certainly that's a huge emphasis. It's been a huge emphasis for us over the course of the last month, and that'll be critical for us holding on the ball.
I know last week you said you guys were going to, kind of, it was going to be the same offense, no matter who was in at quarterback. But for a guy like Eric to be able to get big catches from both guys, just how much did that kind of display that, cohesiveness on the offensive side?
Yeah, I think it was huge for sure, and I think it's, again, a testament to those guys and what they did this summer. I know he's comfortable with certainly both quarterbacks, but Eric's a playmaker, man. Whoever's in there at quarterback, he's going to create separation. A lot of the things we've talked about with him over the course of the year, his length, his speed, his ability to get in and out of routes, and that third down play that him and Maddux made, for us offensively, sparked us and turned the whole game around.
Is Emac ready for, you think, the entire passing tree, if that is a possibility? I mean, you see McAllister as an NFL guy, Bush?
I do, and I think I've told you guys that, since I've gotten here. Again, there's just that combination of, great length, ability to run, toughness, making, tough catches, and again, it's just so crazy how young he still is, and there's a lot of, youth maybe on this whole roster, but it's always going to come down to his approach, how important it is to him, and if he continues where he's at, he'll be playing for a long time.
His connection with Taylen is pretty impressive. I mean, how much work have you seen them do outside of practice? Are they together all the time? Are they throwing routes? Are they studying film together?
Yeah, I think naturally those guys are extremely close friends, so from that standpoint, the ability to connect makes it easier when it's a guy who's your guy and you're spending a lot of time with. But, these guys have all worked extremely hard together in the off season. The amount of time they spend in the summer, is just tremendous, and we're proud of them.
Ashton's fumbles, I mean, that's his game, is not going down and trying to get that extra yard and pushing the pile forward. But, I mean, that's when that fifth or sixth guy gets that hand in there. I mean, how do you're not going to obviously coach him to go down, but, I mean, how do you try to weigh fighting for that extra yard sometimes versus, another guy kind of coming in out of nowhere and knocking the ball out?
Yeah, I mean, again, another great question. I mean, I wish we had some perfect way of saying that, right? Because there's probably, for every time the ball comes out, there's probably 8 others that he hangs on, even the long run he had on the left side, bouncing off that safety and protecting it. And, I think the biggest thing is just the recognition of the different types of situations you're in. When you do get into those cluttered environments, sometimes the best thing, as we all know, is to get 2 hands on it and just take what they give you and get down. But it's something, you're still talking about a young back. You're still talking about a guy that's, although he's been doing so many impressive things, and in his mind is, we're not searching for perfection. We're trying to take the next step week to week, and I think that'll be critical in his development.
Him and how he's holding the ball and being a little too loose, or are they making great plays defensively, or is it a combination?
Yeah, I think it's probably a combination of both, but again, in general, I think as you guys watch it, the more tighter confined spaces you're in, you'd love to get that second hand on the ball at all times, where it's a more natural feeling in the open field, if you will, to just run and keep it tight to your chest. So that's the biggest stress is, in trouble, double with that second hand and make sure we're securing that thing at all times.
You guys are down 27-7. It's 4th and 6 at the 44-yard line. You got your backup QB in.
Yeah.
I guess you could say your third string running back.
Yeah.
What all went into that play, and what did you think of how it played out and T-Crow's impact?
Yeah, so many plays in that game, right, that could have been deciding factors. And Jay, that is one that was a big-time play by both those guys. Again, that is what Maddux brings to the table, just his ability, if you will, to be one step ahead of the read. Crow was probably his 4th progression on that play. They were extremely soft. He made a quick decision to throw the outlet. And again, for Crow to recognize the situation, have the awareness of where he caught it, which was probably at 4 yards, and the urgency for him to push forward. Again, that's the type of play that allows us to get that second touchdown and close the gap, and is critical.
Kind of an off-the-wall question, but, going back to your playing days, kind of the start of the NCAA football video game craze, how cool was that for you to always go back, turn on, whatever console it was, put in Boise State QB number 3 and just play as yourself?
Yeah, it was awesome. I think we used to always laugh. We were sometimes Taylor and I and Nick Lomax were so far down on the depth chart, they didn't carry everybody, So I remember one year, they skipped over me, had Nick. One year Taylor wasn't on there. But we just used to get a laugh about the rankings or the ratings of each guy, I remember one year I think they made me like an 80 in speed, and guys were all jammed up because they knew they were faster than me. So that game was just rooted in all of us growing up. You know what I mean? It was the game that we played when we were younger, and so just really a unique experience.
How would it be for those, the guys next year on the team to be able to have that experience?
Yeah, I think it's awesome. I think it really is. It's something that can probably never get taken away from you. And again, we all, right, maybe everybody in the crowd grew up playing video games at some point, and to have a piece of that and be a part of it's really a unique experience.
What have you thought of how Breezy's run the ball so far, and how close is he to getting maybe 15, 20 snaps a game?
Yeah, he's done a really nice job. In some ways, he's going through that progression of being a freshman where it's let's not overthink it, let's not try to do too much. Really impressed with him even on, I think, his first touch of that second half. There was a defender outside, made a quick cut to get back inside. So, again, I think at that tailback position, it's always about great vision, knowing when to pick your spots on to try to make the big play, but certainly sticking your foot in the ground and taking what it gives you, and he's done a really nice job of that.
We learned that Dirk Cutter was going to be the analyst for this week's game. I don't know if when you first got the job, if you reached out to him and talked to him at all, or if he's a sounding board for you at all.
He's going to be the analyst for this game? That I did not know. He texted me last week and said, hey, I'm going to be doing some games, but he didn't tell me it was going to be this game. So, yeah, Coach Cutter has been a mentor of mine for a long time. We were in contact a lot, really over the last 3-4 years. At one point thought his son was maybe going to come to Missouri. And so, but, I do talk to him, once a week, and he's just a really, really great resource and somebody who I trust a lot.
I know we talked a lot about Taylen. In some cases, can less be more at times? I mean, he doesn't have everything on his plate. He plays a finite amount of plays. Does it allow him to focus any differently? Talk about taking what you do in practice and applying it to the game. Sure. Check down to Crow on that play. His footwork on the shot to McAllister probably allows him to complete that. Just things like that. Can sometimes less be more and then allow it to snowball after that?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's a great point, Jay. I mean, the biggest part is, and you guys know this, there's no, the quarterback position is what the quarterback position is. He was in some critical third down situations, and he's certainly going to continue to develop and execute in those drop back situations. But again, with what we saw from him in this last game, that's a really good formula for us offensively, for him to be able to go play fast and utilize his natural ability.
Sorry to keep beating a dead horse here, but in terms of what defenses are doing to Taylen,
yeah.
To the layman, it seems like it'd be kind of simple. If they're taking away the outside run, there's got to be a hole in the inside. If they're spying him, somebody has to have a one-on-one, sure. Matchup somewhere. Is it that simple as a quarterback? You're a guy that's played the position. Is it that simple, to still go out there and do the things you know how to do?
Yeah, I think so. I think you guys are on it. I really do. And I think if you look at a lot of the throws that he has made over the course of the last 3 weeks, it has been that. It's been those one-on-ones. You look at San Diego State, it was a check, if you will. They were in a one-high coverage. Eric was in man coverage. We threw an inside fade and completed that. Yesterday in that situation, last week in that situation, the deep post to McAllister again was really, really low, tight coverage. 13 personnel thinking we were going to run it, and we created that one-on-one, So I think you're on it. I think the biggest thing of addressing, of running him inside, with those wide guys, that's something we got to continue to develop. And I think that's something that he's going to have to do. At 6'5" and 215, 20 pounds, I mean, to throw your stuff in there and run it in between the tackles and take that kind of, beating week to week is not easy, and there's not a lot of quarterbacks who do that. So I think that's a good assessment. It's something we're certainly looking at. But from the pass game, we're looking at trying to see however many one-on-one opportunities we can get because teams are worried about his running ability.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate you guys.
Thank you.